1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Heisenberg Incorporated. We're gonna do it. Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true. Doing it our way. Nothing's gonna turn us back now. Straight ahead and on the track now. We're gonna make our dreams come true. Doing it our way. There's nothing we won't try. Never heard the word impossible this time. There's no stopping us. We're gonna do it. On your mark, get set and go now. Got a dream and we just know now. We're gonna make that dream come true. And we'll do it our way, yes, our way. Make our dreams come true, and we'll do it our way.
Alright, hey, our audio just cut out on us here. But welcome to Operation End Times. I'm your Jedi warrior, Bent Hillstead. You know, we've kind of wrapped up the Viking series, even though, I'll tell you what, my friends, we will be talking about Vikings and the blondness. I'm going to put a link in this video to an article that was on the Drudge Report in the New York Post about Jay-Z. Kind of interesting. But that video was Laverne Shirley, which was kind of a spin-off from the Happy Days series. I'm going to start a brand new series here called The Two-Faced God, and this is episode 1, called Pillars of Smoke and Mirrors. And the pillars are basically the twins, represent the 11, but when you look at the moon, the two-faced God, like last night, I don't know if it was a perfect split, but the moon, I think, you know, it's approaching like where it's half dark, half light. But the two-faced God, we're going to find out who this God is, and I'm going to tell you what, the two-faced God is not the God that I worship. But twins, you know, pillars of smoke and mirrors, you know, we've talked about the reflective nature of reality, that sometimes you don't know whether you're looking at what's real or the reflection, which is 180 degrees out, my friends, and it's usually reversed. But it's kind of visualized by the yin-yang and the dark and the light split of the moon, you know. So it can be confusing, and you know, what you'll find is that a lot of people like to replicate and duplicate, you know. So it's not only mirrors, but it's smoke, you know, because it's distortion waves, and the way it kind of manifests is not only the pillars, but also just twins, you know. So like Laverne and Shirley are a set of twins, you know. Laverne would represent the mighty man, and Shirley would represent Babylon. But I tell you what, I had to turn the video around because when all that beer went rolling by, I was getting thirsty. But you know, Laverne and Shirley is neither light nor dark, even though we can visualize it as being split between light and dark. But you know, there's a divine light side of Laverne and Shirley, and also of the pillars, because rather than being two opposing forces, because that's a lot of times how the mirror is set up, 180 degrees out, light versus darkness, you know, a battle. But there's a divine view of the pillars, which is love and working in harmony, whether it's man and woman, you know, the yin and the yang, or two brothers or two sisters, father to son, however you want to set it up. But the two pillars, whatever goes down between them is a manifestation of brotherly and godly love. And there's plenty of examples of that, where brothers, you know, David and Jonathan, Jacob, when he left Laban, kind of made a covenant to work with each other. So the pillars, you know, right now in the skies, you know, Gemini is in the stars at night. It's kind of above Orion, but Jupiter's been hanging out in Gemini, which is another set of twins, Pollux and Castor. You know, and that would, Pollux and Castor would also be Esau and Jacob. You know, with Esau being Pollux and Jacob being Castor, it would be Dan and Ephraim. You know, those are the two tribes that were left out in Revelation 7 when they sealed the 144,000. We're going to keep looking at who got sealed there. You know, what God sealed them. You know, was it the two-faced God that was sealing people there? But see, if you Revelation 7, in truth, there are two views of it because it is the mirror. It's the 180 out. Tomorrow, Earth is going to be in the middle of Mars and the Sun. So, you know, both planets are 180 degrees out from Earth. So the mirror is set up, you know, and what will be real and what won't. And, you know, there's this super high earthquake watch out. But Dan and Ephraim, with the two tribes that weren't in Revelation 7. But we've gone through that in the Vikings where Dan represents the mighty man. The mighty man gets cut off if he's not walking with God. Because, you know, you can't be your own mighty tree, you know, because God will cut your roots down. So that's one thing that's going to melt away is the mighty man. And Ephraim represents Babylon or 3D carnal materialism, however it manifests, you know, the sexual nature, it's the 7 sins, the 7 hills of Rome, you know, it's Egypt, it's Syria, the daughter of a city, daughter of Jerusalem, you know. But Cain and Abel is a set of like twins. They were opposing each other, the mighty man versus Abel, the spiritually led person. You know, I could give you another Dan. It's Dan and Judah. You know, they're a set of twins. And that's one thing we're going to look at because Judah is a lion's whelp. And Dan is a lion's whelp. So what you'll find is that Judah and Dan appear to be diametrically opposed to one another. And there's a lot of blessings, and, you know, here's what Judah's going to do. And one of the most, you know, main one that's ever been thrown out there is, oh, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, the scepter being Orion, which is right below Gemini, nor a lawgiver from beneath thy feet. So I'm thinking that's some kind of star formation too, till Shiloh come. And Shiloh was the city right north of Jerusalem where the Ark of the Covenant was stored. And it's right next to Mount Ephraim. And that's all in play, my friends, because we're going to dig way deeper into what the heck was hanging out on Mount Ephraim and its connection to Mount Hermon. So, Dan and Judah is another set of pillars or twins, but you know what? Ephraim can be mentioned twice as well. It's Mannaseh and Ephraim, which was his older twin brother. Mannaseh represents Esau, you know, or the mighty man. And when the blessing was given out, Joseph switched the hands of Jacob, so he ended up blessing Ephraim and making him a greater nation than Mannaseh. And Mannaseh means those who forget, you know. So, you know, once again, that's another pillar. But that Revelation 7, the ceiling there, you can either find a dark or a bright reflection from it. The dark reflection or the bright reflection would be the mighty man Dan is cut off and Ephraim is cut off. The Babylon 3D material lust of man, the flesh, is cut off. And all these other 12 tribes are sealed, and it's a good thing that they're sealed. But the other reflection that's 180 out from it is that Dan and Ephraim represent light coming out of darkness. So Dan represents the mighty man who's been healed and humbled and now walking in a spirit of God, you know, hand in hand, no longer walking away from God and living in the shadow. Because that's what all these other mighty men, you know, would do, is step off the path, you know, and follow their own foolish ego and pride, or worse yet, a dark carnal spirit, you know, down a pathway of destruction and doom, building their own house or their own pyramids of power. You know, not a good thing. But likewise, Ephraim represents light from darkness, and it is the multitude, the isles, it's the exact 180 out of what many people would want to have you believe, that like when Noah, when that event went down, that only 8 people made it and everybody else got killed. Whereas I'm telling you, the true glory is the multitude, and all the animals were the multitude on the ark. And the glory of God is, wide is the path of destruction. There's many options on how to go to destruction, but narrow is the way. But the glory of God is that the multitude follows the way. Now Dan has a twofold blessing, where it says Dan is a serpent in the way, and that's actually can be reflected as positive, because that means that's a spirit. The serpent represents a spirit in the way, doing the right thing, following the will of God. And Dan is an adder in the path. The adder actually being a dark reflection, the light versus the dark, because the adder bites the heel of the horse in the path, which is another mighty man, because that's what Dan does. Ultimately, Dan is a superhero, a Thor, and ultimately that's what you're going to find, is that Dan goes up against Judah, because Judah, to be blunt, at least as far as what the scriptures is saying, betrayed Dan. They're the ones that bound up Samson and turned him over to the Philistines. Judah, and I'm not hating on anybody from the tribe of Judah. That's not how it works. I'm just saying there's a light reflection, and we'll talk about that on Judah, just like Dan, light versus dark. Things can manifest either light or dark. And all these divisions, once again, we're in an age, and throughout history, every time mankind, the male testosterone-driven spirit, gets divided up, whether it be along lines of religion, or houses, or borders, it's all a 3D carnal shadow manifestation that leads to war, doom, and destruction. And my friends, that's what's in the signs of the heavens right now as we speak. Mars lining up 180 out. We're going into these blood red moons. There's one that's going to hit in exactly 1 week on Passover, a tetrad of blood red moons between now and 2015. So the singularity is unfolding, my friends. The cycle, the Noah event, the children coming out of the land of Egypt, the energy wave, the star rising in the east. Some kind of switch being flipped, and the mountains melting away, and the houses being destroyed. And I tell you what, it's not what you think. It's not just 3D carnal manifestation. In other words, earthquakes and floods with literal houses being destroyed, or the works of man being destroyed physically. Because what I will tell you is the deeper and the more truer meaning of what is manifesting, as far as mountains melting and houses tumbling down, is on a spiritual level. That's what's going to happen, and that's how this switch works, and the energy wave, because it's in our minds that are high towers, and as everybody either tunes in or tunes out, I'm telling you, it's thought manifestation. So I have said over and over again, my friends, know where your value system is, and you want to be in the light. You want to be walking in truth and love. You want to know who the true God is. You want to know who Jesus is, the perfect manifestation of the Father, the perfect manifestation of love, who came and lived the life that none of us could, the true superhero, who is the living, breathing Word of God, and I'm telling you, that's true power, man. It's more power than any mighty man, or any magician, or any fool sitting on a pile of gold, and that is going to be the truth that unfolds, my friends. That's why it's important on what foundation your reality is built on, your pillars, because as things come tumbling down, if you have a solid foundation, you will be okay. And that's one of the manifestations of the light, is darkness manifests chaos and destruction and fear and terror, but the light manifests peace and calm in the midst of the storm. And that, we are what we manifest, as we look, as this event unfolds, as the spiritual waters, heavens and earth collide, the energy wave. That's what's going to happen. I can already see it when I look at people. You can kind of say, oh man, something ain't right. But those in the darkness can be brought forth into the light. Jesus, above all else, is the master shepherd and the master fisherman, and the master architect and planner of all there is. So the evil plans of the 11, the 5%, or whoever the heck you are, you know what? You're all fools, man. Sorry to be so blunt. All right, hey, got to sign out. Approaching the time period of this operation, end times, the two-faced God.